Hello, and welcome back for episode 8 of Smith Land and Cattle, as we transform this once private airstrip property into a fully functioning farming operation. Last episode, I teased that there was large changes coming to the farm, and here you see it. It's time to do some forest management and make some more pasture. The pine, fir, and spruce plantations have reached their full maturity age, and we're starting to see some mortality die off. So it's time to capture the value while it's still there. Little full circle moment, as this stretch of fence line was the first thing I put in at the beginning of the year. And now it's got to come out to make room for the equipment. When considering a harvest on your property as a small landowner, there are a few things that need to be considered. As the landowner, you have to have your goals ironed out before the first stick of wood is cut. Are you looking to make money, improve your forest health, create better wildlife habitat for animals like deer, or are you looking to improve the land for your recreational uses, ATV trails, hiking, skiing, etc.? Then once you have your landowner objectives ironed out, it's time to find a contractor. Like any good trade, the good ones are busy, so be patient. It is important to find a contractor that you can trust to carry out this operation on your land, because if it doesn't go right, it's hard to correct. It is often best to consult a professional forester when having a harvest done. We did not do that, as forestry is actually my technical background. My last piece of advice would be to get everything in writing and check in on the harvest often to make sure your objectives are being met. For us here at Smith Land and Cattle, our objectives for the front half of the property were to capture the value in these plantations while creating future pastures for years to come. In the second half of the property, we'll be doing some thinning, reducing the stem count in the woods to promote grass growth on the forest floor, a silvo-pasture type situation, while also clearing a buffer along the property line for future fencing operations, promoting hardwood maples for a future sugar bush, and creating trails throughout the property to enable more access to the far-reaching corners. The next important thing to consider when selecting a contractor is their method of harvest. We chose a contractor that was going to use a cut-to-length method with a dangle head processor and a forwarder. Like its name entails, the processor works the tree at the stump, from cutting it down, limbing it, topping it, and then processing it into logs that are cut to the spec that matches the mill's wants based on the species. Processor also allows you to control very intently where the debris goes, and for us that was really important as we were going to be converting this woodlands into pasture and didn't want to be chasing limbs all over the place. So we decided to use that debris for the skid trails to keep the processor and the forwarder from impacting too much of the soil, and then it made cleanup a lot easier in the end. We've talked all year about how wet it's been, and in some of these clips, you can see the impact in the high traffic areas, but with all things considered, it's really held up nicely. Quality operators, quality equipment, and a quality plan goes a long way. You see really nicely in this clip how the processor is able to cut the tree and work it all in one fellow swoop, really making this whole logging operation a two-man job, which is pretty wild to think about. You can see from this nice aerial view that the contractor is making really good progress. They've got everything cut up to the pipeline, which is almost halfway through what will be clear cutting to convert to pasture. You can see here at the pipeline crossing that we had to build this pretty cool little temporary bridge out of the timber mats so that we weren't to do any impact to the soil above the pipe under the ground. Built the ramp up with brush, cross the timber mat bridge, down the other side. Pretty cool. We talked earlier about having a neat and organized contractor, and I don't think it gets any better than this. This stump tells a pretty cool story. You can see by the growth rings where the majority of the weight of the tree was, which is facing the old runway, which with a little tree phenomenon is called phototropism, where the trees grow towards the sunlight. Guys have been busy with many trips hauling the wood out. Pile's growing pretty big, but man, it's a little soft right here. All that rain that we've had this year is showing its face again. And off to the mill the first load goes. Take a second to showcase these wood piles here. This is what it looks like after the processor has done its business, piled the wood for the forwarder to come and get it and move it to the yard. You can see this. You can see the small, tight growth rings on this stuff. It wasn't going anywhere fast. I had showed the operator before the harvest this oak tree that I wanted to conserve, and it looks like they did good avoiding it. And here we are along the north border of the property, looking at that nice buffer we're giving ourselves to build fence in the future. This is part of a spruce plantation that we decided to leave and just do a thinning on. A lot of debris right here, but it won't be a challenge to clean up as it's all consolidated to the forwarder trail. Here we are now walking in from the end of the old runway into the other side of that same plantation that we did the thinning on. You can see we left good spacing between the mature trees, and all the debris is consolidated to these forwarder trails. I'm really pleased with how this plantation turned out. It should make a pretty good spot for a box blind next fall. One last look at the final loadout, piled as high as it could go. As the contractor wraps up harvest, it's pretty crazy to think this was just this a few weeks ago. But with progress comes large changes, and we're on the way to making this a field, and I'm super excited about the future. We were really pleased with the outcome of this harvest and are excited for the next chapter of converting that once plantation into a grassy field to feed our cattle. We really appreciate y'all joining us for episode 8 of this series, and we hope to see y'all next time.